Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today I want to tackle the question of how big Tears of the Kingdom is actually going to end up being. There have been a lot of detractors trying to say this game isn't going to be as big as Breath of the Wild for some reason. I kid you not, I've gotten comments saying it's going to be either the same size as Breath of the Wild or less. I don't know how you could possibly think that, but today I wanted to talk about this and kind of just go through some thought processes. I was going to make this video about a week ago when that ad leaked, that commercial leaked, but now that it's officially released and I can show footage from it and kind of use some of the things we see in that ad as talking points, I thought now was a good time to make this video. So for Tears of the Kingdom, we know they are reusing most of the same map and geography from Breath of the Wild. Of course, that's not anything to scoff at and of itself. They're going to be including new side quests. All the shrines are going to be replaced, and we will get to shrines. All the side quests will be new. The story is new. Basically, any actual content from Breath of the Wild, you know, be it shrines or side quests, that kind of thing, Koroks, that's not going to be the same in this game. You know, from what we've seen, it looks like pretty much every shot-for-shot comparison you can make from Breath of the Wild to this game, something's different. They've changed something. So not only are they kind of redoing the map enough and adding new content to it to make that feel like its own game in of itself, they're also adding the Sky Islands. And the Sky Islands, this is what they're marketing the game with. This is the main push for this game, the main new addition, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And we don't know how substantial these will be, right? We don't know how many of these there will be. But just from the trailer footage we've seen, they look to add quite a bit to this game. And I'll be curious to see when the game is fully out, literally how much map space it is. And I wondered, you know, how is the map even going to work in this game? I guess they'll just have to have layers to it, because in Breath of the Wild, you open up the map and it's just a flat image. I guess they'll have to have like an upper, like, you know, 3D map basically for the entire Hyrule map, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, for the Sky Islands, I can imagine they will probably be, I'm just pulling this number out of nowhere, you know, maybe like 30% of you know, Breath of the Wild's map will be added with Sky Islands. You know, 30% more explorable area. Not counting, of course, there will be new stuff on the ground as well. We know there's caves being added, which is a huge addition. And that takes me to my first topic from the ad, the commercial, and that is underground. Underground exploration is something pretty much everyone has wanted for this game since the initial reveal trailer back in 2019, when you see Link and Zelda exploring these caves, exploring the mines or whatever, looking for mummified Ganondorf, right? And Nintendo's been very quiet about it. But in this most recent ad, we can actually see Link is very clearly deep underground. Like, deep underground. With the minimap in this game, they've actually added coordinates, so you can see his x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. And in this one shot of this ad, his z-axis is like -479, I believe, whereas in, you know, just like a base level Hyrule field kind of area, it's 0, and then on the Sky Islands, it's, you know, like 500 plus 500. So if you can go to -500, for example, in certain caves, I mean, that's huge. I really don't think they're going to be quite as substantial as the Sky Islands, because I think they would have marketed them if that were the case. But maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, and there are a ton of caves in this game and underground areas. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty small, though. Not small in the sense of like, oh, there's not very many of them. I think there's going to be a lot of them. But just in terms of like how much of a focus the game actually has on exploring underground, it's not going to be as big as the Sky Islands, right? It's not going to be to that degree. I would love to be wrong about that, because honestly, I think exploring underground is even more fun than the Sky Islands as a concept. But obviously, you know, they have to figure out how to make that make sense in the context of the Breath of the Wild map, which they're reusing much of the same geography, right? So we already have the Sky Islands, and we have the presumed to be underground areas, though once again, I imagine that will be a little bit more limited than the Sky Islands, and that right there is huge. You know, Breath of the Wild, it's not the biggest game ever or anything, but the map is huge. If you've played Breath of the Wild and you've played it for an extensive amount of time, you know that the game is very big, and exploring it takes a long time. So adding caves and underground sections on top of that, but also the Sky Islands, which seem to be pretty substantial, that right there is going to be huge. And, you know, it's something that's, you know, Elden Ring, as a FromSoft, for example, and this is the game everybody compares to Breath of the Wild, right? That game's huge. I mean, that game's definitely bigger than Breath of the Wild, right? I haven't finished Elden Ring, so I'm actually asking that. I'm pretty sure it's definitely bigger than Breath of the Wild. But what Tears of the Kingdom is doing is, with these Sky Islands and these underground areas, especially the Sky Islands, though. The Sky Islands, that is something we've never even seen before in a video game. Just straight up. You know, obviously, yeah, Skyward Sword are the islands in the sky, right? But those are loading zones and all that. What Aonuma demonstrated in that gameplay demonstration back in March was something we've literally never seen before in a video game. And that is having an open world that is not just flat. It goes back to the design conventions of Breath of the Wild, where Aonuma said they designed it to be open air. It's not an open world game, it's an open air game. And now we're finally truly seeing what I think they meant by that with these Sky Islands, because, you know, it's not a full map in the sky, but I bet it's pretty damn big. So we almost have two maps layered over each other, two open world games overlayered, but they're all connected. You know, in terms of traversable space, I'm sure there are bigger games than what Tears of the Kingdom will be, but in terms of condensed area and things to do, that's going to be hard to beat, I feel like. But the other thing I want to talk about in this video is that actual content that we're going to be experiencing in Tears of the Kingdom. You know, I've done theory videos on like how many, you know, dungeons there will be in this game, right? People seem to either think it's going to be 4 or maybe 8, something along there. So let's just say it's going to be 4. There are 4 Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild. Let's just assume there's going to be 4 dungeons that replace them in Tears of the Kingdom, although I do think it'll be more than that. What about shrines? In Breath of the Wild, there are 120 shrines in that game, right? I think it was, you know, a little bit more if you count the Champion's Ballad, but base game, 120. In the most recent ad for Tears of the Kingdom, when you see Link fighting a Flame Gleeok on this bridge, and it was in the commercial that just got released yesterday, when you see him fighting the Flame Gleeok, he actually has 17 hearts in the top left corner. That's his hearts. And you might be thinking, oh, well, that's not that impressive. In Breath of the Wild, Link caps out at 30 hearts. 30 hearts, that was the most ever in a Zelda game before. Usually it used to be 20, but in Breath of the Wild, it was 30. The difference there is that in Tears of the Kingdom, there's 17 hearts in one row. In Breath of the Wild, it was 15 hearts per row, and there were 2 rows of them. So if there's 17 hearts in one row in Tears of the Kingdom, you can take that to pretty safely mean that there will be 20 hearts in one row, because why would they stop it at 17? That'd be a weird number to stop at. So, assuming there's 20 hearts per row, that would mean Link can have a total of 40 hearts in Tears of the Kingdom. Why does this matter? Well, because in Breath of the Wild, and assuming it's going to be the same here, you do shrines to get hearts. For every 4 shrines you do, you unlock 4 spirit orbs, and that's how you get a new heart piece or heart container in Breath of the Wild. So, if it's the same thing here, and we can punch in some basic numbers here. You know, if there were 120 shrines in Breath of the Wild, you did all of them, that would be 30 hearts, right? Obviously, you start with 3 hearts, and you get 4 hearts from the Divine Beast, so minus 7. You do 23, I think it's what, 92 shrines it would take to get every heart in that game. And this is assuming you don't do any stamina upgrades in between, right? If there are 40 hearts in Tears of the Kingdom, that would mean you have to do 160 shrines. Now, once again, it's not going to be quite like that because you're going to start with 3 hearts, and there will probably be at least 4 dungeons, maybe 8. But either way, even if you put in those numbers, it's still more shrines, bare minimum, than Breath of the Wild. And that's not counting any stamina upgrades. You know, one of my actual issues with Breath of the Wild is that you can't upgrade your hearts and your stamina all the way. I kind of hope they fix that in this game because that always kind of annoyed me. But just based off of this, based off the knowledge of the screenshot of him fighting the Flame Gleeok and him having 17 hearts in one row, you can infer that there's going to be 40 hearts in this game. And if there's 40 hearts, then that means there's probably 160 shrines. But maybe more than that if they go the route that I just said and you can upgrade your hearts and your stamina all the way. The point is, this is not going to be an empty open world. This is going to be a dense game filled with tons of new content, you know, bursting at the seams. And I'm so excited to explore all of this and make videos for you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about how big this game is going to be. I know I was kind of rambling, but I'm very excited, and from what we're seeing, this seems to be Nintendo's, I mean, it's definitely going to be Nintendo's biggest game ever made, and I question if they'll ever really be able to top it, just in terms of scope, because they've been building on this for almost 10 years now, or over 10 years now, really, since Breath of the Wild started development, since they're reusing parts of that map. So it's going to be hard to see them top this in the future, but of course we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How big do you think Tears of the Kingdom is actually going to end up being? Because I have very lofty expectations, and who knows, maybe I'll be wrong and the underground stuff is way more substantial than they're even letting on. And if that's the case, then that's just even more, you know. That's just even more stuff in this game. So I'm very excited. It feels like we still know almost nothing about this game, but we only have to wait a few more weeks, which is so exciting. Well, this has been Botox Games. Thank you so much for watching this daily Tears of the Kingdom video. I've been basically posting daily, so subscribe so you don't miss any of these, and follow me on Twitter at Botox Games. Until next time, folks, peace.